Men who are faced with the problem of "I can't find a girl" often feel perplexed. They are psychologically healthy. Their behavior is adequate. Their appearance does not cause rejection. Many of them are well off. However, despite all this, they remain lonely. What went wrong? In such situations, it is important to analyze the context in which a person is located. We will not consider situations when a guy is boring, tedious, obsessive, or infantile. All this is understandable. Today we will talk about those men who are attractive to women, confident, have education, qualifications, and a good income, but still remain without a relationship. In fact, is it so easy to find the right girl nowadays? If we are talking about a serious relationship, then a man has a number of reasonable requirements. Age plays a key role, although, of course, there are exceptions, but in general, if a man plans to have a child without complications, his age has a significant impact. Ideally, having a child without problems is possible until the age of 40, but in practice men are forced to lower this bar. If you are becoming a father for the first time, then the most suitable candidates will be women around the age of 25. This is a group of representatives of the fairer sex who are already thinking about marriage and are still suitable for creating a family today. It is important to understand that you want love at 45 and 50, and many people meet their partner at 70. But we are talking about men who want a full-fledged relationship with marriage, children, and leisure. Their searches are focused on the above category. Many are absolutely convinced that the number of women, in general, exceeds the number of men. But the thing is that you are looking at the general statistics for all ages. For example, in the 70-plus age group, there are 278 women per 1,000 men. It's impressive. But are we interested in a 75-year-old grandmother for a romantic relationship and starting a family? Does grandma even need this? There are only 966 girls in the 20 to 24 category per 1,000 men, and in the 25 to 29 group there are already 950. That is, girls at a young age, capable and ready to get married, have a child, and after a couple of years another one, are extremely few even for their peers. But guys well over 30 keep an eye on them. There are two problems here at once. The first is that pretty, attractive and healthy young girls are extremely in demand and are not without attention. In economic terms, demand greatly exceeds supply. In the financial world, we would have recorded an increase in prices. But in interpersonal psychology, let's put it another way. There is an overestimated sense of self-importance. Some do not cope with popularity and, in an attempt to find a prince among the serfs, go into cranes. They sit and turn their noses up. The second is that the shortage of girls simply makes it impossible to find a couple. A man pays attention, tries to get acquainted, notices colleagues, neighbors, and so on. But everyone with whom he would like to enter into a romantic union is already married, or they have a boyfriend. Physically, there was not enough companion, and the free ones are not ready for a relationship at all. These reasons we discussed in an article about female loneliness. You can discuss various nuances for a very long time. There is something for everyone to say. But there are objective statistics. The scale of the problem has yet to be discussed. But the fact remains that there are far fewer girls aged 20 to 29 and men who are interested in them. Without details about the quality of both, just numbers. During our history, we have gone through many stages of development, and at each of them some requirements were imposed on the girls. If you look at the situation from a psychological point of view, then all this can be called gender-based violence. Women are told how to dress, who to marry, when and how many children to have, how to behave with their husband, whether to get an education, whether it is possible to drive a car and play sports. Perhaps all this is a mockery leading nowhere. But there are other opinions. Reading forums and comments, I tried to weed out radical men who are aggressive towards the rights and freedoms of the fairer sex, but even after that, there were still a lot of complaints. Guys don't want to deal with those who have accumulated a negative background. What does this include? Firstly, beliefs, experiences, views, opinions. Girls show a negative attitude by speaking disparagingly about men. He has to take care of me, he has to give gifts, he has to provide for me. He has to take responsibility from me. Such phrases repel even those who are ready to fully provide and are romantic. Objectification of the stronger sex causes then anger. Secondly, education, knowledge, skills, cultural development. Time after time, men come on dates with girls who behave infantile. They have not achieved success in their profession, are not well-read, are not interesting and cannot keep up a conversation. Tacifiers who spend their days shopping and taking selfies. They are suitable for pleasant and relaxed leisure, but men constantly say that entrusting motherhood to her would be a mistake. A little girl in the body of an adult girl is not something that you would like to see next to you. Thirdly, the past. When dating, guys often find themselves in the role of a psychologist, listening to the sad experience of previous relationships. I loved him, everything was for him, but he cheated, drank and stole money. I cooked for him, cleaned the house, ironed and washed, and he spent all day hanging out with friends. There are many examples, but the essence is the same. The girl gave herself to the guy completely, was perfect, and he did not appreciate it, so now I will be a bitch. The man blinks at the prospect and thinks about getting out of here as soon as possible. Decides, if they treated you like that, and you let them, then you're not too valuable to yourself. And if so, how can I respect you? The opposite situation also happens. The girl tells how cool her ex was, how much money he gave, how many flowers he gave, which house he lived in and which car he drove. He raises the bar and the guy feels obliged to compete. And a mentally healthy person is not interested in this. It feels like there will always be this third person in a relationship. It is even worse if communication is maintained with him. Another important question concerning psychology is only partially. Everyone knows how it should be, what to do and where to run, but in practice, we are dealing with certain behavior that has arisen under the influence of external factors. They impose a norm on us, tell us how to behave and how to be, but in reality, men test various tools for finding a girl and stop at the most effective ones. I have studied enough information to share the real experience of the guys. A few years ago, many people actively used dating sites. Today the process has been greatly simplified, thanks to the advent of mobile applications. Just one click and you are already around a huge number of girls. Choose the one you like. However, studies show that the effectiveness of this method is extremely low. Out of dozens of swipes, only a few dialogues may arise, and then only a few % of them will reach the dates. There are many reasons. Firstly, bots and scammers are registered. Secondly, girls are in search of attention, among whom are married, newly divorced and negatively minded. Some lack the presence of a spouse and the idea rises to increase their personal income at the expense of a crowd of fans, albeit virtual. Others are offended by the whole world and, in order to please them, you need to be at least Cristiano Ronaldo. Thirdly, dating sites. Apps are often used as a way of entertainment. Some people really like to swipe, vote, and watch what they have. Just out of curiosity. They don't go on dates and don't look for anything, but for fun they stick to photos of guys. They throw some away, give hope to others, but in the end they do not strive for anything. To find a girl, it is not necessary to sit on thematic resources. Guys actively use platforms with the ability to communicate and see other people's profiles for these purposes. Social networks allow you to see a person, rate their photos, posts on the wall, and opinions in the comments. A casual conversation often ends with a meeting, a relationship, and the creation of a family. The girls themselves note that they have become much less likely to approach on the street. Of course, it is important to take into account the spread of the internet. It is easier for men to log into the application than to risk their reputation with approaches. She'll send me away, they'll laugh at me, it'll look stupid. But not everyone thinks that way. The guys report that they easily drive up in shops, at bus stops, at events. The effectiveness is not high. Out of 10 approaches, you can collect 5 numbers, but in the future this rarely leads to a meeting. The girls agree to call the number just to get behind, or they were in a good mood and decided to have fun this way. But after a while it turns out that her background does not meet the stated requirements. She is in the process of divorce, or is in a codependent relationship, or has children. The highest efficiency is demonstrated by acquaintance at work, at university, sports section and other places where people are engaged in common business and interact in a natural environment. Psychologists are constantly talking about this. Your dates in the cafe are absolutely meaningless. It is important for people to get to know each other, and this cannot be achieved with empty conversations. You're either chatting about nothing or you're casting. When performing joint tasks, you immerse yourself in the demo version of the relationship. You are already doing something together and you can evaluate the partner's capabilities, how comfortable you are with him, whether you manage to find compromises, how he behaves in certain situations. The foundation has already been laid, and when sympathy arises, you just need to add intimacy, and then start planning a child. Almost everyone notes this method as the most effective, but the problem is that in the modern world, people often work remotely, attend sections with individual classes, and events do not imply communication between participants. It would seem to be an ideal plan, but there is one disadvantage. There are no communication points. Entertainment establishments become a salvation to some extent. Bars, discos, nightclubs, mass seminars and trainings. However, not everyone visits them. This narrows down the sample. Today, it is important for a normal man with the right goals not to lock himself at home in order to stay inside and make regular acquaintances. Otherwise, you will not be able to meet your soulmate. Dating sites and social networks do not provide the necessary functionality or cannot offer decent options. More often than not, it ends up being a waste of time. There are much fewer girls, and the probability of being left with nothing is quite high. Even if viewed from a mathematical point of view, of those who manage to go on a date, the lion's share will drop out due to the absolute discrepancy of views and beliefs. Someone is unable to be in a relationship because of the rejecting type of attachment or the aforementioned bullying. Thousands of young, pretty and attractive girls cannot become your mate, simply because they cannot take on the role of a partner, wife, companion. They're looking for daddy, prince, and all that stuff. Is it possible to talk about some kind of catastrophe in interpersonal relations? Probably it's not worth going into the negative. Every year people create new families. Every day someone goes on a date. Not many people suffer from a lack of physical intimacy. But if we talk about percentages, in real terms, the number of accidents is frightening. The increase in the number of divorces and the decrease in the birth rate suggests that it is becoming more and more difficult for men to find the one who will become a reliable companion, get married and have children. No one is to blame, and hardly anything can be done. Just stating the fact.